Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman. A quick update from me and then over to your questions this Wednesday, 24th of July, day 292 of the October 7th war. The Prime Minister will address Congress in Washington, D.C. this evening for the record fourth time, more than any other international leader. At around 9 p.m. Jerusalem time, which is around 2 p.m. Washington, D.C. As for the speech, the Prime Minister will emphasize the strong bond between the United States and Israel, Israel's position in its war against Hamas, the dangers of Iran and its axis of terror proxies posed to the Middle East, and the struggle to bring about the release of all of our hostages. To update you further on other meetings, I can confirm that the Prime Minister will meet President Biden and the two leading candidates for the US presidency on Thursday. The White House scheduled a meeting between the President and the Prime Minister at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The meeting with Vice President Kamala Harris is also scheduled for Thursday afternoon. On Friday, the Prime Minister is scheduled to meet with President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. The Prime Minister will not fly on Shabbat, so the delegation will return immediately after Shabbat. Top of the agenda for all of these meetings, including the meetings he's already had with other political friends and allies, as well as evangelical leaders and other members of the Jewish community and other supporters of Israel in the US. The top of the agenda is, of course, to return all of our 120 hostages, among them women, children, and, of course, the elderly, who are still cruelly being held in Hamas captivity for 9 months now. On COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza, yesterday 207 humanitarian aid trucks went into Gaza from Israel and the port of Ashdod, together with Egypt and Jordan. They went in via Kerem Shalom, 156 of them, and the Erez crossing, 51 of them. 10 tankers of fuel and 6 tankers of cooking gas went in for essential infrastructure, which makes a total of 832,000 tons of aid which have gone in, more than enough food for everyone in Gaza. 80% more than before the war. So that's the end of our briefing today. I will now happily take your questions, which you should put in the chat together with your news outlet. I've got a first question here from Jason Perry at NTD News. Does Israel expect any resistance fighters to continue fighting Israel after the war is over and Hamas and Islamic Jihad are defeated? If so, what steps is Israel taking to prevent this resistance from emerging? Thank you very much for that question, Jason. Let me just read it again to make sure I understand it. Does Israel expect any resistance fighters to continue fighting Israel after the war is over and Hamas and Islamic Jihad are defeated? If so, what steps is Israel taking to prevent this resistance from emerging? Okay, thank you very much for that question, Jason. We've made clear what our war aims are. They are the destruction of Hamas militarily and its governing capabilities, the return of our hostages, and of course, to ensure that Gaza never becomes a threat to us again. So within that third aspect of our war aims is ensuring that Gaza doesn't become a threat to us again. The Israeli Prime Minister has spoken about the necessity, not the will, but the necessity to occasionally go in as security needs dictate to take care of terror threats against Israel in response to attacks, whether they're planned or whether they have taken place. That's a proviso which the Israeli Prime Minister has spoken about. It is certainly not our wish to do that. We would prefer not to do that, but that's the reality of the situation. We are destroying the terrorist network, but the other jihadis which are in Gaza, which seek to threaten us, as they do in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, and in other areas as well, our security forces, as is the duty of the government of this country to protect its citizens, all of us here in Israel, it is the duty to protect its citizens against these threats. And by necessity, we will be forced to occasionally, we wish it wasn't the case, but we will be forced to occasionally go into Gaza and take care of these security threats. Next question from Celia Vasdal from TV2 Norway. How does Israel respond to the many threats towards Israelis participating in the Olympics, and in particular to the latest video circulating of a masked person with the Palestinian flag on their chest calling for rivers of blood in Paris? Thank you very much for that question, Celia. The government has put out a fairly comprehensive response plan towards the situation at the Olympics. We, of course, at the Olympics have Israel's team has faced threats in the past. There have been more recent threats as well, which that briefing does make clear. So the security of our athletes, as well as the safety of other visitors to the Olympics, it is, of course, high in our mind, and of course our duty to protect our athletes together with the Israeli Olympic team, in cooperation with the French authorities, is of course very important. We do not take this lightly. That is why we are on extremely high alert, and all the athletes have been made clear of this situation. But I will send you, Celia, if I may, the latest briefing we have on the Olympics to give you more details on that. Question from Fred Ager. Release hostage Aviva Siegel, the wife of Keith Siegel, who is still in Hamas captivity, has called for a hostage deal today at a demonstration in DC and has asked Bibi to take the deal before it's too late, as she knows that Hamas captors torture everyone all the time, that the hostages are going through hell and they need to come home alive, now dead and not in a box. What are the main points of disagreement at the moment, and what is currently blocking? So thank you for that question, Fred. It seems a ridiculous point to make, but can I just, at the outset of this idea, just make clear that, of course, this is an extremely emotional subject, and no one can put themselves, God forbid, into the situation of the families of our dear hostages. They're going through hell for more than 290 days now, but it is Hamas which is holding them. And I can assure everyone here, as the Prime Minister has made clear from day one, getting our people back is the most important priority for Israel. It's the reason why the Prime Minister has taken with him on this delegation to the US released hostages, but also the family of other hostages. It is Hamas that has again and again walked away from a deal. Let's none of us have any other illusion. Hamas has walked away again and again. The US have made that clear. Qatar has made that clear. The Egyptians have made that clear, and that is just a fact. Now, on the details of this deal, the Prime Minister has said that we of course want to get all of our people home. The Prime Minister said he's not prepared in any way to give victory, to give into victory to Hamas. If we give up on this, we will be in danger in the face of Iran's entire axis of evil. But be in no doubt that these are fateful decisions for not only the hostages and their families, but also for the future of the State of Israel and for the entire Zionist enterprise. Let me explain this. Yes, the conditions are becoming ripe, without doubt, and the Prime Minister has made that clear, and that's certainly a very, very good sign. Also, we see that the enemy's spirit, Hamas's spirit, is starting to break. We believe that if we are steadfast in our battle against these Iranian-backed jihadis, we can achieve a deal. As the Prime Minister has said, this is a process. Unfortunately, it will not take place all at once. We wish that it would. Again, we make clear that this war could be over right now, by this afternoon, by the time we put our children in bed. If Hamas lay down their arms and give back our hostages, it would be over instantly. But even in this deal, there will be stages. However, We believe that we can advance the deal and leave us in possession of the leverage to bring about the release of all of the hostages. This is the direction in which we are heading, as the Prime Minister has said. Things are developing and giving us hope. This hope has been with us right from the beginning, together with upholding our mission in this war. And the Prime Minister has also said that this has been a terrible hardship for the entire people of Israel, a nightmare for the families and friends, a nightmare, a living hell, which they are experiencing, and we're all experiencing together at obviously a lesser degree. But we're asking Israelis not to lose hope, and all the other hostages as well. There are hostages from other nationalities as well, not Israelis. We're asking them not to lose hope. Together, we will get there. Now, just to speak a little bit more about the hostage negotiations, before setting off for the US, the Prime Minister held in-depth discussions regarding the hostages together with the hostage negotiation team and other senior security officials. And I can confirm that the Prime Minister directed that the negotiation team be sent for discussions on Thursday. Now, you've heard me state our position on a hostage deal, on a hostage release deal, and I'll say them again just so it's clear. The framework which Israel has agreed to, which has been supported by President Biden, will enable the return of hostages without obstructing the other goals of the war. In the negotiations, Israel insists upon several basic demands: the option to return to fighting until all the goals of the war are met, preventing the smuggling of ammunition from Egypt into Gaza. We're cutting off that vital lifeline from Egypt to give their to prevent any deadly smuggling of weapons into the arms of Hamas and Islamic Jihad and other terrorist organizations, and of course preventing the return of thousands of armed terrorists to the north of the Gaza Strip, and maximizing the number of living hostages that return from Hamas captivity. Look, Israel, we're insisting that the war will not end until all of our goals are met: the return of all our hostages, dismantling of Hamas's governmental and military capabilities, and removing the terrorist threat to Israel. So, Fred, that's a longer answer than you were probably expecting, but I just wanted to lay out the case as clearly as we possibly can. All of us want them to be home as soon as possible, and we're doing everything in our power to get them home. But it is ultimately, they are in Hamas's hands. It's this genocidal, murderous organization which is holding them, and they need to let them go right now without conditions. Next question from Avi Wolf from JFeed. How did Prime Minister Netanyahu receive the news that Kamala Harris will not preside over his speech in Congress as a vice president traditionally does during the speech of a foreign leader? Thank you for that question, Avi. Look, I think this speech and the relationship between between Israel and the US is very, very important. It's bigger than any individual. Let's be clear about that fact. Israel and the US have stood together for decades and decades and decades. May I remind you that it was a Democrat President Truman, who was the first world leader to welcome the establishment of the State of Israel 11 minutes after this country was declared on the 14th of May 1948. And ever since then, we've been side by side. We're facing enemies side by side. We have so many things in common. We share so many values, that of democracy. You know, we're the only democracy in hundreds of miles in any direction. We're a bastion of liberty in a very, very difficult neighborhood, but also we share enemies. That enemy is Iran, of course, and whoever wins the US presidential election, and it is of course up to the American people to decide who that is, and that is whoever wins that election. Israel will work together with them and we look forward to continuing to build the strong alliance between our two countries, which is based on shared values I talked about, but also shared threats. As I mentioned to you as well, that the Prime Minister will be meeting Kamala Harris also tomorrow afternoon. Next question from David Clement from the News Forum. Yesterday, a video was released on social media that appears to be someone from Hamas threatening the Paris Olympics and the people of France. Has the government evaluated the legitimacy of the video? Thank you very much for that question, David Clement from the News Forum. I'm going to share, if I may, on the group, the particular group about this briefing, and whoever's not on this group, please do drop me a line. Our latest guidance and our latest position on the Paris Olympics. Look, we've lived with threats against our people, and they have unfortunately been. None of us here in Israel can forget the terrible threats and the death of our Olympians in Munich in the 1970s. All of us are working together here, Israeli security forces, but also in partnership with the government of France and the French police, to ensure that the Olympics are carried off in a peaceful way, in a harmonious way, as befits the spirit of the Olympics. So if I may, David, I will pass on our latest briefing on the Olympics. Next question here is from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Why would any Israeli criticize Noah Argamani for anything? Is the criticism of Argamani for traveling with the Prime Minister a sign that Israel is returning to the divisions that existed before October 7th? Thank you for that question, Joel. The Prime Minister made a specific comment on this subject. No one can be anything but moved at the way that Noah Argamani has carried herself, being in Hamas custody for so many months, being held by the Hamas terrorists, with all the terrible things, the malnutrition and the terrible treatment which she has spoken about so freely, the appalling act of keeping her away from her mother, who sadly has since passed away, but at least due to the bravery of Israel's armed forces in rescuing her together with other hostages, she was able to spend some precious days with her mother before her mother passed away. The Prime Minister's made his comments clear on this. I would just say to you, Joel, that there is a tendency to believe that whatever happens in the media is some sort of national phenomenon. It's not. The majority of Israel's people till today have nothing but love and support for our hostages. All of us want the Prime Minister and his mission in Washington, his mission to succeed on behalf of the State of Israel, to bring our people home and to continue the strong alliance against the enemies of Israel, namely Iran and the seven-front battle against terrorism which we're facing. So I would point you, Joel, to that statement from the Prime Minister. And also I would like to pay tribute to the incredible bravery of Noah Argamani and her father, who during the Shloshim, the 30 days mourning period since Noah's mother passed away, they still accepted the Prime Minister's invitation to join him, because they want to help bring all of the hostages home. The point of this visit, one of the key points of this visit, is to engender support from America's people and their elected representatives to put pressure on Hamas to bring our people home. So we've got nothing but praise for Noah Argamani and all the other hostage families that have taken place, and of course the terrible plight, the terrible situation which other hostage families. Look, they've all got their opinions. None of us can criticize them in any way, shape or form. It's a very, very difficult It's very difficult that what they're going through, and none of us can judge in any way, shape or form, but we're all working towards the same objective, is to get them released from Hamas's custody. Next question from Dr. Abby Korb from SWC. Is the Olympic security briefing available? Yes, I will share that with you if you haven't already have it. I'll put it on our group, and whoever's not in our group, then I'll happily send it to you privately, or please ask me to join the group. Okay, that looks like the last question. Can you just scroll up to the top, just to make sure I haven't missed any questions? Okay. Yeah, okay. I think I've taken all the questions that there are. So there's another question here. Jim Williams from Zenga in DC. Vice President Harris had a commitment scheduled in Indiana and apologized to the Prime Minister on missing the address, and it was not meant to be seen as a boycott of his speech. You may recall that the Prime Minister had to reschedule the original date of the address, had to be moved because of a Jewish holiday. So just to be clear, the Vice President was informed about her absence well ahead of this visit. Just wanted to make sure that was clear. Thank you very much, Jim, for sharing that point with us. As I said, the Vice President has made time to meet our Prime Minister tomorrow afternoon as well as President Biden. So with that is ultimately the last point. Thank you for joining us. The Prime Minister's speech will be available on the Prime Minister's website after he delivers it. As I said, at 9 p.m. Israeli time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern time, Washington, D.C. time. And in the meantime, please do stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the next briefing. Thank you. Bye-bye.